Now, if you're someone who does business across different countries in the continent, you'll be familiar with long border queues, which in some places have been known to stretch into weeks. Truckers often have to make several custom stops along their journey. And just to give you an idea of what that involves, the African Development Bank said in 2012 that the average customs transaction involves up to 30 different parties, and that process may have to be repeated on each side of the border. So let's break it down a bit and look at different parts of the continent. The AFDB says a consignment of goods moving along West African corridors can expect delays from around 7 hours per trip on average, and the Abidjan-Bamako corridor has the highest number of checkpoints and levels of bribery. In East Africa, traders going between Kigali and Mombasa have to negotiate 47 roadblocks and stops. Customs delays cost East African community about $8 million every year. And in Southern Africa, truckers have to wait about 36 hours at the South African-Zimbabwe border post over Beit Bridge. Southern Africa loses about $48 million a year from customs delays. Well, to help ease the flow of goods, the East African community has introduced one-stop border posts. Focus on Africa's Tulanana Bohela visited a border between Kenya and Tanzania.
Scenes like this are all too familiar in East Africa's overland border crossings. These queues, some stretching for endless kilometers, cost money and can add up to 25% surcharge on transport costs. The pinch is also felt by the drivers.
Trucking companies do not care what we go through. If one is paid $200 and you get stuck at the border for 2 weeks, all that money is spent there. When you eventually cross over, it becomes a huge hassle.
But there's also another challenge even before crossing over. These trucks are waiting to start their journeys to different parts of Tanzania as well as to neighboring countries. The biggest challenge has been the time it takes to get the goods cleared at border points, a factor that has resulted in the inflated costs of goods for the ordinary consumer. Currently, trucks in the region were required to stop twice, once on each side of the border, to be inspected and submit customs documentation. The organizers hope combining custom agencies into one single location will increase competitiveness and reduce the cost of doing business in the region.
We expect to reduce the time it takes to cross the border by 30%, and by so doing significantly reducing the cost of transport. And we are hopeful that the gains will be translated in the cost of goods, and that's reducing the goods at the consumer level.
Tanzania and Kenya signed a bilateral agreement to pave way for the use of the $5.7 million state-of-the-art structure. It is an investment that will hopefully bring bountiful returns in the near future. Tulanana Bohela, BBC News, Dar es Salaam.